Yo, there's something beautiful about Bearcats basketball. High flying.
Kenyon with a jam.
Shot denying.
Miles rejected.
There's just an energy that comes with the Cats. A rich history built on toughness.
And Mick Cronin looks like he wants a technical.
A bring-your-own-lunch pail mentality. For a long time, UC was the hunted.
And I felt that we couldn't lose.
I think it's time the Bearcats do a little hunting of their own.
Once y'all done with them, send them to me, man. You know what I mean? We can put them on the court and keep that Bearcat thing going.
I am fired up.
Takes it all the way. Oh! It's going to be Little.
I wonder how Steve Logan would be over in Afghanistan or somewhere. I bet he'd be pretty poised. He just does not get rattled.
Van Exel, he'll cut it loose. Watch out. Stevenson cuts it back. Oh! Kilpatrick outruns everybody. Johnson, the exclamation point.
We've been dealt the king of heartbreak over and over again.
Rozier. Smith and
Everything they worked for was undone on one play.
But I see the light. The Cats are back. Lukosius, open three, got it! Oh, baby! Welcome to the only live Bearcats postgame show on YouTube. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. What do you say, everyone? Welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats. Final score from this one, 81-58. I got to be honest with you. I was driving into Cincinnati today. Shout out to my sister that's getting ready to get proposed to in about an hour. She has no idea, so hopefully she is not watching the show. She's getting proposed to in Covington. So I say I'm going to do the live show with my buddy Hudson Klauke. I'm Chuck Walter, by the way. I pull into his place. I walk inside. I say, "How we looking, Hudson?" He says, "It's 10-2. It's an ass kicking." That was the story of the day, man. I mean, this thing was never even close. I love it.
Start to finish. As you can tell, we haven't figured out the tech live with two separate mics, so we'll be swapping this thing back and forth. But we make it work just like this UC team does, man. And it was start to finish, the tip-off to final horn. They did exactly what you'd expect the number 18 team in the country, number 11 in Ken Palm. I expect that number to go up. It was an ass kicking, man. And you love to see it because that's what good teams should do.
What was the storyline of this one that we had? We had we kind of had our debriefing meeting with 8 minutes left in the game. We're like, what's the talking point of this one? And I think it was just overall ass kicking.
Yeah, no, that's really what it was. In team effort. It was a team effort again. If you're running through the box score, I mean, we almost had every starter in double figures besides Aziz Bandago. But, hey, he got more than 4 rebounds. I think that's the first time in 3 games that he's done that. He had 8. You had Dylan Mitchell with 14, Seamoss with 12, Jizzle James with 14, and Hickman with 14. And Hickman, I've had my issues with him. A little bit to be desired, I thought, from shooting the ball. He looked great today. He looked fantastic. Complete team effort. You had Betsy coming off the bench too, man. It was nice to see a complete effort from this team.
By the way, you don't have to grab the mic. I know that you're in the finance world. This is your first stint in broadcasting. I can hold this out and you can just go that way. So we'll do that moving forward. But hey, you got to have the mic in your hand. I get it. It makes you feel some type of way. It makes you feel powerful. Wes Miller has these guys feeling powerful right now. I mean, Georgia Tech, that's probably a quad 2, maybe quad 3 win, but any win on the road against a team that's in the top 150 of the Ken Palm, like the Yellow Jackets are nearing around the 100 mark, it's a win. You'll take it. It's something that's not going to look good on your resume come March, but it's not going to look bad, especially when you pulverize them. This thing was not close. Like I said, 10-2 to start. It was consistently 15 to 25 points. Georgia Tech made a little bit of a run late to cut it down to 14. Hudson's like, hold on now. We got ourselves a game here. And what do the Bearcats do? They find different ways to get it done. It's a little bit of everyone. First half, there was a sequence where Dylan Mitchell had 3 straight alley-oops. On the third one, comes down a little bit limp on his leg. Let's say he's hurting. He's scooting down the floor on a bad wheel, and then he just picks it up last second and spikes it off the backboard. I mean, Dylan Mitchell, and this is not a stretch, he's the most athletic Bearcat we've had since Kenyon Martin. I mean, you could throw Justin Jackson in there. Hicks was powerful. Maxiel was powerful. But help me out in the chat, fellas. Like, who is more athletic than Dylan Mitchell? He glides down the floor. Even hit a three-pointer today, dude. The bench loved it. I think that's the first of his collegiate career. Let's start with him because he leads the way, a co-leader, 14 for Mitchell, 14 for James, 14 for Hickman. But he also has 11 rebounds, a double-double for Cincinnati, adds in how many blocks? Had at least a few in the game. He had one. The team as a total had 5. This is fun, man. We're having fun. We see 124 people in the chat room right now, and it's because the Bearcats are freaking back, man. We had left for a while. Mick was recruiting guys in his last couple of years like Aquil Hardnett and Prince Toyambi, and good God, we're landing 5 stars. Our roster's littered with 4 stars. We got Arrington Page coming off the bench. He's got a couple of screws loose, but man, he can play some basketball too. Betsy's hitting threes. I really don't know what to complain about. I mean, I'm looking at the turnovers as always. We only had 12 of them today. Can you find a single complaint from today's game, or is it just good times in Bearcats land? Let's get ready for Villanova here soon.
It's absolutely good times. We just lost the light. Absolutely good times in Bearcats land. I guess if I had any qualms, it would have been the rebounding initially. We ended up winning that rebounding battle with this roster. I know Dan Skillings, now he's handing me the mic, and he's got a loco. With Dan Skillings not even playing, guys, let's keep in mind potentially our best player, one of our best athletes, and you just mentioned Dylan Mitchell. I don't think there's been anybody besides Kenyon Martin that can even compete with him. The guy was on a pulled hamstring. He jumped over the backboard. So I haven't seen that in quite some decades, actually, as a UC fan. But the rebounding was a little bit to be desired. We ended up winning the rebounding battle. I think the total was, 36-29. Really a complete effort. They got it within 14, but they were just toying with their food at that point. At no point was Georgia Tech going to be in this game.
Either Georgia Tech sucks or we're really good. One of the two, or a little of both.
I think Georgia Tech is going to end up possibly being a quad 2, maybe a quad 3 if they suck, but they have some good players on there. I mean, what's his name was really sticking at Duncan Powell with the most preposterous haircut in college basketball history. I think he's got a skullet, so I respect him and what he did. He had 10. But really, at the end of the day, this is a very complete team. We've been saying this from day one. The depth, the size, the speed, the shooting. 9 of 22, 41% from 3 today. And I said at the beginning of the year, if this team can find a way to shoot the 3 ball, I don't know how we're not a top 10 team in the country.
We just went 8 minutes to start the show and did not mention the Bearcats did this drubbing, this 23-point win. And by the way, if you had 7.5, oh, baby, we're celebrating tonight in the city of Cincinnati. But the Bearcats did this without Dan Skillings. Like, literally, maybe the best talent on the team. I think that's fair to say. Like, Dan Skillings could be the team's best player. We just waxed the floor in Atlanta against an ACC team that could be decent. Like, Damon Stoudemire apparently has them on the rise in their own gym. And quite frankly, I think there are more Bearcats fans there than Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets fans. Whatever concerns you had in the Northern Kentucky game, it's back to how we're feeling after that Ohio State scrimmage. I mean, it's where's the Final Four this year?
I got to look into it.
We should,
my intern on that.
We should probably start looking up some tickets right now. No, but forget the Final Four, but it's feeling a lot like the early 2000s, man. The way that they're playing, mixed teams, like they were aggressive. You got every ounce of talent out of them that they had. They played harder than just about anyone in the country on any given night. But this team's polished. They're skilled. They can score. They can rebound. They can block. I don't know what the weakness is yet. 9 of 22 from 3. That's, again, 40%. They have a sharpshooter in Tyler Betsy that's coming off the bench that I would love to see him let him fly more. Like, the Cats are just good, folks. If you haven't bought in yet, if you're not on the bandwagon, then don't get your ticket. It's too late. Bandwagon's closed, baby. This is a one-way ticket to wherever the hell the Final Four is. I mean, good God. I am just fully torqued.
As am I. We were talking about, we're going to try to get Dunkin' Donuts as a sponsor. The way the Dunkin' Cats, the way that this team is dunking the basketball, I don't know the last time that we saw this. Had to have been early 2000s. The lob passes, I think we had mentioned it, and people were commenting on Twitter too. Jizzle seems to be a little bit too pass first. I don't know if Wes is kind of in his head about, this is what the point guard does. He finished out the game very strong. He started shooting the ball a little bit, but he's gotten into the lane and tried to force some lobs. But all things considered, man, the lob threat that Dylan Mitchell is just changes the dynamic for everything. That's a pretty good percentage chance that ball's going into the hoop when you lob it up to Dylan Mitchell. He is a freak of nature. And I don't know if you're a defense and you're trying to figure out a way to stop this offense, I don't know if you can do anything other than play a schizo matchup zone like NKU, because you can't stay in front of our guys. They can shoot the ball, and they have size and weapons down low as well. So it's really tough to try to figure out a way to stop this offense.
And here's the thing that's going to happen. First of all, let's talk about the dunking Bearcats, because I brought this up to Houdini during the game. I legit think that this team dunked the ball more tonight than the entire 2007-8 team the entire season, or 06-07. Like the team with Marcus Sykes and John Williamson and Adam H. That team may have dunked 5 times all year. I didn't get an official account on tonight's game, but it had to have been like at least 12. Like Cincy is back to the high flying, rim roaring, and even knocking down threes too, which has not been a staple of Bearcats in the past. Like maybe I'm getting a little ahead of my skis. Tell me to get off my skis, man.
Stay on your skis.
Stay on my skis. Stay on the board, whatever it may be. Hold the course. I think we're a top 10 team in the country, man. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. If you have a chance to get your Bearcats futures to win the Big 12 in, I mean, typically I'm Dr. Mush. You shouldn't listen to anything I say in life. Do as I say, not as I do. Actually, don't do either of which. But this team's compelling, man. They got something about them. I mean, they got CJ Frederick on the bench, and granted, he may have been dinged up. I didn't listen to the pregame report. He didn't play a single minute. Rayvon Griffith, who I think is a talented dude that could have played on many Bearcats teams in the past. I mean, if the 17-18 team's running out of freshman Keith Williams, we could run out of redshirt freshman Rayvon Griffith. This team's just deeper. They're just better. Like this is I mean, there's tears streaming down my face. You guys don't know. I'm sitting here in Covington right now with tears streaming down my face. It's a beautiful sight. 51% from the floor, dominant in all facets. Georgia Tech never had a chance. That was an absolute spanking, a beatdown.
It kind of reminds me of, just to pull something from the past, when Arkansas had a running back room. We're talking Arkansas football, Peyton Hillis, Felix Jones, and Darren McFadden. There's a potential chance that Rayvon Griffith is a legitimate Power 5 starting guy. He can't even see the floor. We got CJ Frederick, like you mentioned. He gets hurt more than, my men's league guys that, average age is 35. I feel for the kid.
We'll need him for free throws down the stretch.
I feel for the kid. I hope he can get healthy, but it seems to be made of glass, to be quite honest. But the roster's so deep. There's so many weapons. And I know it was Georgia Tech. Is Georgia Tech a great team? Probably not. But when you go and make a statement on the road like that, great teams do exactly what we did today. I keep thinking it's night because the time change. It's like pitch black in here, as you can tell. But Wes Miller has these guys on a collision course for great things. And we saw the Big 12 maybe not as great maybe as we once thought, with Arizona and Baylor don't look great. I think it's like a 3-headed race for the Big 12. I know I might be getting ahead of my skis myself.
Stay on the skis.
Jesus.
Stay on the skis, everyone. We're heading towards Black Diamonds, dangerous waters in the Xavier Musketeers coming up here soon. But first things first, Bearcats have to take care of some business, starting with Villanova. But I still want to get into more of this game, man. Simas Lukosius goes 2 of 5 from 3. So his 69% percentage is going down slightly, but that's still 40%. I'm thinking at this point, that's who Simas is. He's just someone that's going to bang him at a 40% plus clip this season. And then Jizzle James, 0 of 5 from deep. The three-pointer's not there, but 7 of 13 from the floor. Really picked it up late. The floater was money. I did think there were too many times where he was looking for that lob instead of just putting up the 5-footer. You got to love that final stat line, though. 14 points, 7 assists, only 1 turnover from Jizzle James as your point guard. Day Thomas, though, I brought him up because he knocked down a couple of threes, was playing tremendous on-ball defense. But the Cats are so loaded right now that you kind of just forget that certain players are on the team. Like when Day Thomas popped in there, it was like, oh, that's right. We have Day Thomas in our second units that just we don't see for 10 minutes at a time. And he's still Day Thomas, someone that put up 30 last year against West Virginia.
Yeah. Well, how many teams truly, I don't care if we're talking Kansas, how many teams can you say their best player just hasn't played for 3 games in a row now? And they are still throttling Georgia Tech. Listen, it's not a slouch. And we forget that he's not even out there. Like, that's how deep and talented they are. And we didn't even get into the defense. I thought they were getting back to a little bit of last year's defense, causing turnovers. At least initially, it was all over the place. Georgia Tech looked like they never had rolled a basketball out in their lives. But the defense looks great. The length, like I said, it's just going to be difficult. There's not many ways to beat us. I don't care who we're playing. It's going to be very difficult, and I cannot wait to get into, the big games at Dayton, Xavier, Villanova, and then get into Big 12 play, man. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, schedule coming up. It's Alabama State, it's Villanova, it's Howard, then it's the Xavier Dayton. And then after that, you get a tough matchup with Grambling. Then it's the Kansas State and the probably on paper the hardest 3-game schedule in Bearcats history, which is in no order. It's Kansas, it's Baylor, and it's Arizona. Like back to back to back. That's what we've been dreaming of, folks. Like we're all in this together. We were suffering through a 3-game stretch where it was Temple, it was East Carolina, and then the third game was like a Wichita team that was just dog shit. Like that's what we had to deal with for what was that, a decade in the American? Oh, yeah. I mean, we got UConn and Louisville for a couple of those years, but I mean, for the latter half of those years, it was tough sledding when it came to matchups. So enjoy the ass kickings for as long as possible. The big question that I want to bring up is Dan Skillings, because at some point in this season, he's returning. Hopefully it's for that Villanova game on December 3rd. Hopefully we see him against Alabama State coming up soon. But with Dan Skillings, I'm a firm believer of between Mitchell and Dan, you got to have one of them on the floor at all times, every single point of the game. So does it make sense to maybe slot Skillings in as your 6th man? I mean, we saw them both in the starting lineup at the beginning of the year. Hickman brings in a little more of a shooting aspect than Dan, at least we think, unless he's really worked on his shot. Would it make sense to, have those lineups where Skillings and Mitchell are in there together at times, but you're always seeing one or the other? If you're Coach Houdini with the clipboard and the whistle.
Well, I mentioned this before the season even started, and the chat was, showing up at my house, trying to break in and loot my entire place, because I said maybe Skillings actually would benefit for being the 6th man. And that's not to say clearly he's one of our best players, but with the lineup and the way that Connor Hickman can shoot and space the floor, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, and a lot of egos get involved. But we always say Wes Miller's best attribute is he gets these kids. They love him, man.
There's no egos, only egos, only ego waffles. There's no egos from this team.
They love, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think that with the way that Wes has these kids and they all have the same goal, it doesn't seem like there's a big ego in the locker room. I think that could potentially be a thing. In all honesty, though, when he comes back, I guarantee you he slots him in the starting lineup. We'll see how it works. The starting 5, I think, it doesn't really matter. It's like, how many minutes are you going to be playing? Skillings going to be playing a ton of minutes. I don't necessarily hate him possibly coming off the bench. He'd be a guaranteed 6th man of the year of the Big 12. We could guarantee you that. He'll probably average 16 a game. But it's something that Wes is going to have to talk about for sure.
The only thing that I want to know with this team is how are we going to find Tyler Betsy some more minutes? Because I love watching that old man's game where he's just 6'8".
I know where we can find the minutes, Chuck. Josh Reed played 14 today. And I hate shitting on Josh Reed. This team is too deep for Josh Reed to get 14 minutes. If we're going to get 14 minutes to somebody, it's either should be Betsy or Rayvon Griffith, in my opinion. I really do. I mean, he went 0 for 3 with 1 point. I don't know why we're wasting burn with Josh Reed 14 minutes.
because he works hard. And as you said, you saw him at the tailgate. And you're like, oh,
He is huge. He's a big guy.
He's a big fella. Frederick gets no burn in the game. Griffith gets some time late. That would tell me that Frederick's probably a little banged up right now. And just not even looking at the injury report, he's hurt, as we've seen a little bit from him over the years. But there's not a lot to be discouraged about. There's plenty to be extremely positive about. Georgia Tech, though, man. I mean, Cincy fans are, I don't want to say we're Kentucky. I don't want to say we're Duke, but we're on our own tier. I mean, we're nice, man. You see what Georgia Tech's doing as a average 500 team or whatever. They had like 600 people in that arena, and 500 of them were UC fans. Like the fact that we've made one Sweet 16 since 2001, and we still consistently get 10,000 plus in our arena. This is a basketball city, man. We see the near 200 people right now on a Saturday that are streaming into the show, a lot of which in the chat room, I recognize some of these names. There's just something that's comforting about knowing that Bearcats basketball is back and that the fan base is really revving their engine and ready to go. I mean, it's the same way with football when they're good, man. I mean, we saw the red at Notre Dame, and people that have said, like, Chatterbox Bearcats, you're like, when I lived in San Francisco, they said, you're really going to start a Bearcats podcast now, like for a team that's in the American. I said, one, our friend Coach Broadbeck told me 6 years ago, we're going to the Big 12. We saw the leaked pictures of the stamps coming out there that the Cats are going to the Big 12. That's A. And B, when this basketball team's good, man, we saw in the early 2000s growing up, it's back. It's coming back. It's not quite there yet, but I've had some buddies that I have not heard talk about UC since I was in the 6th grade that are like, I think I'm back.
There's something about the people do kind of forget. I don't want to overuse the term. People forget when Bob Huggins was here and we had the talent.
He had his own bar called Hugs Inn.
The passion and the energy of this fan base, it is absolutely there. I think we're going to see it this year. And we were talking about Cronin off air, and Cronin was great, but some of the guys, you knew what the ceiling was. It's like, oh, maybe we can get to a Sweet 16. The way that Wes is recruiting players, it is a recipe for success, not only in Big 12 play, but for tournament play. Like, we have the talent level to actually compete against the best teams in the country. He doesn't do the Mick Cronin thing where he sees Bill Self at the same AAU tournament. When he's recruiting a kid, it just says, you know what, I'm walking out. I can't. Tom Izzo's here. I can't do it. Wes Miller doesn't give a shit.
Says, fuck Tom.
Yeah, Wes Miller doesn't give a shit. He's going to recruit everybody. All the players love him. He's just got this thing in such a good spot right now. And it's almost like when the Reds are good in this town, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, people like baseball? And people love it. And the energy, the passion, it's here, and I think it's going to stay, man. I cannot see a scenario in which this team is not extremely, extremely good. Top 15 all year.
We're talking about ways to get this show to blow up. And our fearless producer, Nick Kirby, says, all right, you guys need to be in the studio doing the live, not even post-game shows, like the live watch parties like they do for Chatterbox Bengals. Every game, you need to watch the entire thing and just treat it like it's a stand-up comedy set, essentially. I'm saying no, that's not the way to do it. We need to go to the games in full jerseys, or I think we go in full suits and ties. I've never seen you in a suit and tie. I think it'd be kind of hysterical. And we do the live post-game shows from there. But one thing that I've thought about, we should go to Oscar Watch this year. When the Xavier fans try to go and put the Muskie, we should be protecting Oscar with an HD camera, with a photographer for 9 hours. We should be streaming that thing in the freezing cold. Honestly, we should have our shirts off, and we should make sure that no one touches Oscar. If anyone in the chat has any ideas about how to get this thing to pop, you let me know. But thoughts on that? Just the Oscar Watch early, because I'm already pointing ahead to Xavier, man. Villanova stinks.
You want me to potentially get like an assault charge for like a 20-year-old Xavier?
Yes.
Listen, if I need to do that, I will put myself on the line for the Bearcats for Oscar.
Chad's been doing it for days now. I mean, he's Brendel's been going after Muskie fans in the Twitter comment.
Oh yeah, Brett's unbelievable because we're suing some middle school because they used our logo.
What are your thoughts on that? Because Matt Jones broke the report, and everyone has probably seen this. If you haven't heard, there's a school in Tennessee that's using the Bearcats logo. It's the full C. They took out the underline where the red is underneath the C, and it's just the white C ball. The exact same thing. They're called the Bearcats, and the Bearcats are giving them a little cease and desist. Your thoughts on that? It's a middle school. I get it. A lot of people saying you got to protect the brand. If you don't protect the brand, it's nothing.
Sue them into oblivion.
Sue their ass. Screw them and sue them.
Initially, because there's a lot of, hell, the grade school I went to literally ripped the Minnesota Vikings logo completely. Granted, we changed the colors. They're just taking the exact same color scheme, the exact same logo. I'm not surprised that somebody did something, and it really wasn't even UC. It's our third party. I forget what the name is, that actually watches for copyright infringement. So they're the ones actually doing it. Do I give a single shit? No. Do I think the middle school in Tennessee is going to make money off of our likeness? No, I don't. But yeah, at the end of the day, sue them.
Sue them, everyone. Sue Georgia Tech for the turnout that they had from their student section, from their fan base. I mean, gone are the days where they were in that Final Four with Duke and UConn, where it was like a Mecca Okafor, and Oklahoma State had Joey Graham and John Lucas. And they had the Yellow Jackets had like Jarrett Jack, Chris Bosch, Luke Schencher. That's a program that we just went down there, and it felt very much like a mid-major game. And that's an ACC team welcoming in a top 25 program and a squad that really doesn't have a good football team either, to where you would think that there'd be more than 600 people there. But I mean, I think over under, like, do you think there were more than 2,000 people at that game?
It sure as hell didn't look like it. And I know the cameramen try to put the angles to make it look like there's a ton of people in the stadium. He didn't have anything to work with. He's like, I can't find it more than 6 seats in a row that are filled. There wasn't a lot there. And that kind of brings me to when Brandon was here and the entire team just quit. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Are we going to turn into like Wake Forest, where we're a once proud programmer, like a Nebraska football that can never get back to where they were? And Wes Miller has changed the dynamics completely. I've said this a million times. When that guy speaks, I listen. I'm a 31-year-old man, and I'm like saluting him at the TV. My girlfriend's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, this guy just gets it. He just gets it, and he's changed the dynamic of this entire program. I can't say enough good things about him, and we are in very good hands, man. I said it. They put it on the damn ESPN Plus commercial. I'm excited. I am excited as a Bearcats fan, and everybody clearly is as well.
I am fired up. That's what Wes said. I'm fired up. And it's funny because last year, at points of the season, like there were so many people that were just out on Wes. The press conferences, not me. No, I was never out on Wes. What I will say is still to this day, I want him to beat Xavier. I want him to win some big games. But there were points of last year where, what was it? I'm pissed off. That was the quote he kept saying last year. I'm pissed off. And it was getting to him. I remember Coach called me. And he's like, I've been a season ticket holder for 20 damn years. Who the hell does this guy from North Carolina think he is? He's a Bearcat, man. He gets it. Just from the players that he's recruiting, he comes in right away. He brings back the Jordan uniforms. We've been begging for those things for like 20 years. Wes is like, I'll get it done. I know Jamal Lucas and Meacham, they got their ties. We'll get the jerseys back. They did it in like a year and a half. Wes, Shon Abaev, I mean, if he can haul him in, if that rumor is true, like, and for those of you that haven't seen Abaev play, he looks like Brandon Ingram out there. Like, this guy's probably on a fast track to a McDonald's All-American. That is not a stretch. Wes Miller has this thing rolling in the right direction. I'm getting goosebumps, boys. The fact that we have to go from this to Scott Satterfield, it's a little sad, but you got a preview for the game tonight? Scott Satterfield and the Cats against Kansas State.
I might be biased. I've lost a lot of money in the last couple of weeks on UC football. I've lost all confidence. Check out, Lily and Niehaus are doing the post-game show, but I'm glad I'm not a part of it. I hope to God Sorsby can figure something out. I'm not confident that we do anything well tonight.
Not confident that we do anything well tonight. I think they're going to cover the spread, and I think they're going to go into Manhattan and get the win. Here's the thing with the football team that I've said pretty much all season long. They've been decent. They are 45 seconds away of game time from being what's the record? 5-5 from being 8-2. I mean, Pittsburgh, I think West Virginia, we made enough mistakes to say that that's not anything that has to do it. But I mean, it is 2 plays that decided that game. Sorsby giving away the ball twice. I think Texas Tech, we could have won that game. I mean, hell, we had a field goal late in the game to send it into OT, and we got the Nathan Hawks experience. That's 3 games right there that all of a sudden you're looking at an 8-2 team. So, I mean, Sat has them rolling in a better direction than I saw last year. My issue is we're seeing the exact same issues that we saw last season. It's just like the deeper the game gets, the more mistakes we see. It's mistakes, it's penalties, it's untimely plays. It's going for it on 4th and 1 from your own 26-yard line on the first drive of the game. And I know that they got the first down, but imagine if they didn't.
Well, they seem to have regressed is my biggest issue. They seem to be getting worse as the season goes on. And it's funny because we were like, they got the 4-headed monster, Sorsby, Royer,
Where the hell's Royer,
Henderson. I think they have like 3 catches in the last 4 games. So if we're looking at the measuring stick of last year, this team is vastly improved. I still think Sorsby is the guy. But what I've seen recently in the Iowa State game wasn't nearly as bad as what the score was. I mean, they had the lead at one point. But you got to right the ship. You got to win one of these last 2 games. If we're not bowling, then I'm going to be very upset. At this point, you're just playing for extra practices to get the guys in tune. So hopefully we can get one of these 2. TCU, Kansas State, no slouches by any means. We'll see what happens.
And for those of you that have just hopped on this stream for the first time, have no idea who we are, let's just put it this way. 2 folk from Cincinnati. We hosted Locked On Warriors last night for the entire San Francisco Bay Area. So the least you can do is subscribe to the show right here. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. Obviously, you're on YouTube right now. Subscribe wherever you get it. Take it on the go. Sit down for the YouTube post-game shows. We're going to have some fun this year. We're going to crap. We're not going to crap any of these games. We're going to crack open some Cincy Lights. We're going to win about 27 games this season. Hell, I think we can win 30 games. I think we may not lose a game. What do you think?
We got Alabama State on Wednesday, folks. They just beat Omaha by 22. Okay, I'm looking at it. This is no slouch.
They played LSU tough. They may not be bad.
Shit.
They only lost to UNLV by 14. I mean, spread may only be about 19 points.
Oh, God. Alabama State's a juggernaut. I always convince myself before these games, NKU as well, Georgia Tech. I'm like, dude, they're feisty. They are feisty. And then what do? We just go in and throttle them. We just do what we do, man. So we got Alabama State on Wednesday. And then, Jesus, look at doing this live. And then we got, into December. Then we go into Villanova, Howard, Xavier, Dayton. Then we starting to ramp up. So.
And don't worry, Howard's at home this season. So we do like that. Let's go with a player of the game. I'm going to give mine to Dylan Mitchell. Had 14 and 11, a span in the first half that really just put Georgia Tech away with 3 alley-oops and then limping down the floor to get up there and spike one off the backboard. Dylan Mitchell he's an A-plus athlete. Give me someone that really stood out to you.
I'll give it to you could give it to Jizzle James with 7 assists and 14, but I'm going to go Connor Hickman, man. 6 of 8 from the field, 14 points, knocked down 2 out of 3 threes, 5 boards. If you can get anything like that from Connor Hickman throughout this year, we're going to be looking real good. So I'll give it to Connor Hickman, man.
The Dunkin' Bearcats. If anyone has a franchise at Dunkin' Donuts, please do the right thing and get the sponsorships going, folks. This is just getting started. This is more than just a post-game show. It's a channel. Chatterbox Bearcats on Instagram. We got stuff rolling around left and right. Who have we had on this show? We had on Ice Cube. He's cool. We had on Day Thomas. We had on Keith Williams a couple weeks ago. We've had on CJ Frederick. We've had on Mo Egger. We've had on Dan Horde. We've had who else on the show? Lorenzo Neal, the fullback for the Chargers. He came on and talked to us. So we just got good stuff all around. Follow wherever you get the show. And if this is the first time you're seeing us, leave the like, leave the comment, and join the community. Let's go, Cats!